Andy, on the website you've published a document called Moving Forwards. Do you want to talk us through what your plans are over the next few months leading up to the start of the next season?
Yeah, I suppose the reason for doing that was, in some respects, admitting what was happening the here and now, but trying to show the group of players that we have here and people that might be looking at the club as to maybe that's somewhere they'd like to go and play rugby, that we'd actually been proactive rather than reactive, and that we were looking forward and putting things into place to ensure that next season we were able to have a more successful season and stop this slide. So, the things we're talking about is having a seven-a-side team or a tens team that would play 2 or 3 of the tournaments that go on during the summer months. The first one being on the 10th of May, which is a Tuesday, which is the Berkshire Floodlit Sevens, which is an annual event which is run at Reading Enzians. And so we thought we'd start off with that process. We've got a number of lads who we feel would be suited to that format of rugby. We're going to try and keep it sort of as a 21-year-old group, just to give the younger players that opportunity. But I would also like, as many of the squad to sort of buy into that and try and help out as much as they can, come to training, be there on the night, help with kit, generally just get behind their teammates. So trying to maintain that team spirit, that team bonding, which has been apparent this year. And it's very easy to have those 2 months where everybody has a bit of downtime, which is understandable. But the last thing you want is for the team to fragment at that time. And so the sevens and tens during those months, the club are obviously doing the beer cider festival which they had last year, and we're going to try and run a tens tournament alongside that, and inviting local teams to enter that. We're trying to not be too overly ambitious with it and maybe looking at 8 or 10 sides. We might put a couple of sides in ourselves because that'll be part of our pre-season. Traditionally, pre-season's been starting at the beginning of July, and that will still effectively be what we do, but we would also like to put some things into place to allow guys the opportunity to improve their condition or conditioning, which we feel is one of the factors we perhaps were a little bit slack on this year. So during June, we'd have conditioning or rugby-related conditioning sessions on a Tuesday and Thursday, and then finish that with some tag rugby, be that 10-a-side, 7-a-side, so that we can mix all the people that want to turn up. That won't be just for first team, that'll be for all sections of the senior part of the club, so possibly right the way down to under-17s. Those guys want to come along, the Colts obviously, and anybody who wants to be involved in senior rugby could come along and start their pre-season if you want. And then during pre-season, obviously the point will come where we'll look at a senior part of the squad, and we're looking to take them away for a long weekend and try and get some team building, maybe play one of our pre-season friendlies while we're away, and then coming back and into the sort of the pre-season, maybe another couple, one midweek and one at the weekend, ready to start that first Saturday in September. So just trying to show that we're trying to think ahead. We're not waiting to see who turns up before we decide what we want to do. We'll decide what we want to do, and if people want to be part of it, then we want to see them. And it's open to anybody and everybody. With regards to the sides, I still hanker after having a second team which ideally supports the first team, and keen to do that. Obviously there's ongoing discussions between ourselves and the Newbury Stags, and hopefully we can come to some arrangement where everybody's happy with regards to where they're playing their rugby. The club like Newbury can ill afford to have 2 separate clubs. We should all be playing under the same flag, because it's just so much more sensible. We can share everything that we've got. We can share the playing surface, we can share the medical backup, we can share the balls, we can share players, and at the moment we're not doing that, and so at best it's a silly sort of doubling of financial expense. And at worst, it puts us in a position where we're struggling to get teams out. So I think we can do it. We've started all training together again, and there seems to be a will from all groups to make that happen. And hopefully next season, we'll have 3 sides out there. Plus, obviously, still a very thriving and good junior and colt section.
Yep, that would be great. So Saturday we're going up to Shelford. Could you just give us a roundup on sort of injuries from last weekend and who's available this weekend, if you know?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the one area where we were blessed with numbers 2 weeks ago, i.e. the front row, where they were all filling in right across the field, is one area now where we're short. But that is the only area where there's a problem. Obviously, last week, Tom Fiddler couldn't play because of his ankle, and that hasn't recovered. Luke Sawyer couldn't play because he'd hurt his knee playing against Albanians. So wait to see whether that's any nearer recovery. Alistair's had his nose done now, so that's effectively rolled him out now for the rest of the season. Fred's going well. Nathan got carried off. Thankfully, everything is okay there.
Good.
Had a full sort of list of x-rays taken when he got to hospital for his neck and his shoulder and his eye, because he'd also picked up a bit of a bash on the eye. So that's all clear, but obviously he's very sore, and it remains, I don't think he's going to be fit. Max hobbled off after about 3 minutes of coming on. So I'm waiting for some feedback on him. So there is still people available. Tom Bax obviously came and filled a spot on the bench at the weekend, and we know he can play in the front row. Fred is doing some really sterling work for the big fella.
He is.
And Matt Holyland and Tom Sanders are okay. So it's just who fills that second replacement spot from a front row point of view. But other than that, Ben West is back, having had a good game for the South West on Sunday. So we're pleased about that. Andy Gale played against him, and he'll be available. Despite what's been happening this season, I've been very pleased that we've been able to think outside the box and long term about people like Ben and Andy Gale and others. If they've had the opportunity to play at a high level, we've given them that opportunity. Back row, where we've got the 2 boys that have been away at Exeter all season, Greg Palmer, who was on the bench and came on towards the end, and then Matt Bowl, who played 1 game for us in early January, is back. So those 2 come into reckoning. Along with, obviously, if the 2 guys play in the second row, Pricey can slip back into the back row. 2 that are missing are, unfortunately, Jonathan Inglis and Miles, in that they're both playing for their college in the National Colleges Ten-a-side tournament on Saturday. But Dominic Payne, who was away last week, is back involved. So we've still got choice in the backs, but all these things need to be taken into consideration, and we are starting to look about next year really. And so the Colts have got an important game next weekend. But then after that, hopefully they'll win, and it'll maybe make me rethink. But there's a couple of lads there. I'd like to give them the opportunity to play some senior rugby before next season. So if they do make it into the first team next year, that first game doesn't become a too awe-inspiring. They're already blooded, if you want. So we'll be looking at that towards the end of the season as well.
Okay, well, let's see what Saturday brings. Thanks, Andy.